Yeah, thank you. So this work was between me, Steve, Sam, and Frederick, and we kind of were looking for a proof of concept of the work, the frost mapping, and some time ago we went for frost mapping with the GPS, and we used this background information, to help us, start with this work. And we realized that frost usually occurs where there is a forest around, at least there is a source of water nearby, and there is like a 30-day or 40-day period of dryness. So that kind of actually impacts the severity of the forest. And also, if the area is around a valley, then also that helps somewhat in the severity of the frost. So this guided us into the data set that we are going to use. We used the GRC Global Water Dataset for the nearness to water, SRTM 30 for the slope, and then we used the Hansen dataset to extract the forest cover, and GPM data for to evaluate the moisture stress, and GFS data for forecasting. So the methodology was basically to highlight our area of interest, and then we basically came up with the binary mask, 0 to 1 mask data for the 4 layers, and then we tried to scale that into 100 for easier weighting, and then apply the thresholds in order for us to come up with the severity levels we have for at least severe, moderate, mild, and no frost. And then we applied this methodology to the GFS forecast, and we came up with a user interface for visualization. So I'd like to ask Sam to come and present the results.
Okay, like you were saying, we try to put all this information into one place, and especially utilizing some of the cool UI stuff we've learned the last few days. This is going to walk you through some of the GFS data, which I think is the most underused. It's not supposed to be playing yet. I was just giving a little precursor. But it's looking at the next 3 days, and so it's going to give you forecasted precipitation, temperature, humidity, and wind, kind of to line up with those variables that he was talking about. So it'll load up, and then it'll show you the lowest temperature for the next 3 days, the lowest humidity for the next 3 days, and the lowest wind for the next 3 days. And then combining some of these other layers, like the water mass that we were talking about, we can combine them up to this risk map, and the polygon that we drew is the place where the tea leaves have had a lot of trouble in the past. So we can see that that's highlighted. And if you click on a point, it'll actually load all the information for the weather forecast and give you the lowest minimum temperature over the next 3 days. So it's about 10 degrees there in the next 3 days. And you can see over there on the left side, you can see the diurnal cycles of the temperature, the precipitation, and other forecasts. And it hasn't rained very much in the last few days, which is why it's purple over there. But it's cool because you can zoom out and see this really cool wind forecast map for the next 3 days. So it could be a pretty globally scalable process for anything that includes this type of meteorological data. So once again, this was just like the prototype, really rough version risk map that we made that will definitely be improved upon in the future. And then we also wanted to incorporate some actual monitoring information. So we just made a 10-panel out of the MODIS surface temperature maps. And this could be used and is being used as a way to monitor frost in the area. I'll kick it back over.
Okay,
real quick, finish up.
Okay, so we had a little bit of challenges while scaling the outputs so that we actually highlight the frost, and also we didn't have any data for validation. So we hope this is going to be fun working from my desk back at home. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Is that one still working? Yes, no, maybe. Oh, yes, sorry, questions. There's a question here.
I'm just wondering, like, what would happen next? Like, let's say you have your the ability to forecast when the conditions for frost are likely to occur. Like, what
Well, that's a very good question. Well, in Kenya, there are two types of tea farmers, and it's actually not about tea only. There is also people who actually involved in dairy farming and things like that. We have the small scale and the large scale farmers. So the large scale farmers are able to actually have irrigation systems to water their farms. And I've just said there that rain actually really reduces the frost risk. So, but for the small scale farmers, this is a very big problem. So what we want to do is to provide this frost forecast information so that they can be able to go and pick tea early in advance, and they can secure that harvest. So the losses are actually reduced. I hope that answers your question.
Excellent, thank you.